you might want to
can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here, she's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live, I'm not a cat.
I can see that. I think if you click the up arrow next.
Jerry was clearly not amused for a while.
Oh, God.
Well, it still does it for Claire. Eddie, right before you jumped on, I asked Jose how he broke his fast. And he did so with chocolate cake. And I said, I hope Eddie gets on because I know he gets a little irritable when he has no coffee all the time.
Yes.
You seem to have bounced back nicely.
Yes, the lack of caffeine was it's always bad the first few days, but we're broken all of our fasts.
We have a new friend on today. Renee, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Joe. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to some of you. I wish it was evening for me, but I'm Renee Moonjin. Hi, nice to meet you, Claire. I'm the principal of Acacia Consultants, and I've been doing medical device development, general management, and commercialization for about 30 years. And now for about 10 years, I've owned a consulting business, and I help small to mid-sized medical device companies basically create their business plans, commercialization strategies. I can help with product development and then set up their sales channels here in the US.
Wow.
And
that's a busy job, Renee. Wow.
Yes.
Do you help them set up their QMS as well? Do you do that as all part of it or not so much?
So you can kind of think of me as a general contractor. And so I bring in different specialties as needed to help. So I do work very closely actually with Lean RAQA. A lot of, I pretty much refer all of my clients to them to build their quality management systems and do the really great work.
Yeah.
I'm actually now consulting for them as well in a general manager role. They've grown significantly over the past couple of years, and so I'm helping them scale the business to have the right processes and procedures in place to take it to the next level.
For those of you who know them better as Michelle Lott's team.
Oh, yes.
So she's working closely with Michelle. You actually saw when I was shutting off the cat video for a moment, I had Michelle's site up, the Lean RAQA site, because I'm doing some work for them. So thank you, Renee. And I said, when I finally met her for the first time this week in a one-to-one call, I said, we really need to get you to watch last week's video starring Gunter Vessels in his second in a row appearance. This is, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm just thrilled. Hello.
Membership has its privileges.
I'm going to use that. Oh, trademark.
Sounds good.
Still.
Good to be here, guys. Good to see you.
Hi.
So Rakesh and Donovan are going to lead us through our conversation today. Rakesh, we don't know too much about you, except that you're not Donovan and that you're the least important member of your three-person family, because you're the one who has to rove around the house.
There's the fourth guy. He's just 4.5 years old, so he owns everybody else. So that's fine. Yeah, he's the top of the chain. So that
I
works.
see. So in fact, you're the least of four.
Yeah.
Could you put maybe some of the more important members of your family on, so we get our value?
Yeah, that's why I stand. At least otherwise, my younger one crashes most of my Zoom meetings. So now when I stand, he cannot. At least you guys won't see him when he's loitering around here. So that helps.
That's an amazing strategy.
No, for some calls. First of all, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on this call. Donovan has spoken a lot about this session that he has. So my name is Rakesh. I am based out of New Jersey and work very closely with Donovan as part of the Innovate team. My primary focus has been leading all the digital and data services and solutions for our clients, right? So all the way from working with them to solve a problem, understand what they're trying to do, look at different technologies, and then kind of building the solution out that would make sense to them, right? So the whole delivery, the engineering team, everything is my responsibility. Very excited to be on the call.
Thank you. So Donovan, let's start with the way I can typically process these thoughts. To whom you guys are the what, that what? Why should we care about what you're about to tell us? And who do you typically talk with?
So that's a big loaded question. We are a data analytics, digital experience, process optimization company.
Oh my, you're getting
Onwards,
much,
I knew
much,
I was
much
going to get it
smaller
from you, Joe.
words for us to
I
be
knew
able
I
to-
was going to get it from you, Joe. We work across so many different spaces. And here's a little bit about us. We're headquartered in Atlanta. We've got 15 centers of excellence around the globe. We work across all kinds of clients. Within med device, whether it be the actual med device and field service itself around supply chain, whether it be in the digital marketing space or the marketing space at all, whether it be in the customer care space, whether it be in manufacturing, we are data engineering, software engineering, digital experience, data analytics company. There's so many facets of our company. It depends. Our tagline is, let's solve a problem. And since we have so many different aspects of our clients, if you look here, some of the things, you know, if you start from the bottom right, we were Minority Supplier of the Year since we're out of Atlanta. So we're a NMSDC, which is National Minority Supplier Development Council, and Georgia. So we're a minority business. That's one. We run about 2,500 people globally. Top 10 most recommended supply chain solutions providers, big data analytics, top 10 big data analytics, top 10 logistics analytics. And so what we're going to talk about today and where I brought Rakesh in is one piece of the company.
Namely
the UI UX, leveraging the UI UX part of it. So software engineering, digital experience.
Okay.
That's what we're going to focus on today.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So, and I'm not going to steal a lot. Like I said, with data engineering, all companies want, you know, they talk about data being the new oil. I disagree. Data is water. And companies are either drowning because they got too much of it and they don't know what to do with it, or they've got too little of it and they're dying of thirst. What Rakesh is going to focus on today is the software engineering digital experience, and I'm going to let him go into that, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. And advanced analytics, that's actually helping your data speak to you. One of our clients came to, when they were a prospect, came to us and said, you know, I'm tired of my team telling me at the end of the month or the end of the quarter how many times we hit the tree. Can somebody take my data and tell me how to avoid hitting the tree? And once again, that could play into manufacturing, that could play into customer care, that could play into any side of your business. You've got data. There's all kinds of things that go wrong, especially in COVID. People that didn't know what supply chain was pre-COVID, everybody, my grandmother knows what supply chain is post-COVID, because everybody's broke. And so that's where advanced analytics, and then the business services side is where we're standing up teams, whether they be escalation teams, because of the information we give to clients, they can't handle. Maybe they need after hours or weekend support. Maybe they need support offshore or onshore to bolster the team, and they want to buy it versus build it. So do they add more customer care agents? Do they add more tech support? Do they add more logistics? Do they add more marketing? They don't have to. We can stand that up. So that in a whole, minus the two segments, that's, you know, a lot of what we do. Once again, you know, people ask us, who are our competitors? Well, that really depends. From a call center delivery standpoint, we compete against the Sykes and the Sutherlands. From the data engineering, software engineering, analytics point of view, we've taken business away from the Deloittes, the Ernst and Youngs, the Accentures, the Boston Consulting Groups, the McKinseys, the KPMGs. So it all depends where we play, who we're talking to. Rakesh coming up here, not to steal his thunder, but he's talking with one of our clients at the Adobe Summit.
He's on your homepage.
What's that?
He's on the homepage of your site.
Yeah.
He is. I figured, you know what, Joe, I figured I'd bring one of my smart guys.
You're not
I'm
kidding.
the mouthpiece of the company. I'm going to bring one of my smart guys and to make this call more equitable.
I will, however, say your site needs to be updated because nobody uses carousels like this anymore.
Rakesh, there's your feedback.
Yeah, I will take that, absolutely.
Okay.
Perfect.
So without further ado, I'll give it over to Rakesh.
No, thank you, Donovan, and once again, thank you, everybody. So I think one point on just this slide, and I will move on to our core topic, right? The fundamental reason why you see these service studios the way we have envisioned is the fact that, going back to what Donovan said, our goal is, while we're a technology company at the heart of it, our goal is not to be obsessed by technology, right? I'm not here to say that we are the best analytics company or the best data engineering company. We are not obsessed by technology. Our obsession and our focus is purely on let's solving a customer problem. And when you put that hat on, it is never about, hey, you know what, it's a website issue, it's an advanced analytics issue, or it is a business services issue. It's about they're trying to solve a business challenge, which is, hey, about my customers churn. I have a high customer churn. And as we speak, the problem that we are solving for one of the large manufacturer of devices, both for home and medical, is the fact that they have a huge customer churn problem. They called it leaky bucket. Now that customer churn problem that we're trying to solve cannot be just solved by having the right user experience and amazing digital experience when they log in online, or a very fantastic customer service who is very good in the way they communicate, or having a very robust data analytics solution that can highlight it, who's going to churn. It's a combination of all three that needs to come together. And that's where I think that's the foundation of trying to build something which then is focused on that. And that's why you see these 4 core services. I think the key thing that I wanted to kind of take the topic today, right? I think there is a lot of change that has happened, as we have seen in the last 2-3 years, in this whole notion of UI, UX, experience transformation, right? Because fundamentally what we started seeing was the fact that at the end of the day, the customer and consumer experience that they have with your digital properties is becoming more and more relevant to how your business is going to be perceived. And that is where the key transformation is coming from, right? Because if you just dial back 5 years back, there was hardly any impact of how your website looked, or how customers could find you, or how customers could navigate and understand products, to actual bottom line of your business. And especially if you're B2B and you were manufacturing or med device company, you hardly cared about it. The biggest channel were, hey, my customer sales, my customer service center, my sales rep, my accounts rep, my distribution channel, they are doing fantastic well for me. And my digital website is just a place where I've dumped all my PDFs, all my catalogs, all my product details, and I don't really care how it is looking and what's happening. But if you look at the last 2-3 years, there is a complete shift, and the shift is much bigger now when the B2B organizations have starting to realize that. See, B2C is in the world, they're trying to change this, I think, for the last 7-8 years. And everybody's clear that when it comes to consumer business, everybody wants to be Amazon or Uber or Airbnb of the world, which is fine. That aspiration has been there. But now in the last 3 years, B2B companies have been trying to change the way they engage with their customers and consumers online. And that's where experience transformation and UI, UX becomes very critical. But I think the fundamental aspect of how you do it needs to be rethought, right? Because at the end of the day, what we have seen and what we have seen all our customers now very categorically tell us is the fact that if you were to kind of look at where the next growth is going to come from, no matter which segment you are, it is how going to be delivering a customer experience that drives the growth. And your ability to deliver this customer experience is not just about a fancy looking design that you thought is pretty, but also having the understanding of what your customers really expect out of you. And that's where our data insights driven experience transformation mindset is what comes to play, right? And if you were to broadly look at experience design, at the end of the day, it's a combination of understanding what your business goals and objectives are, what your customer needs are around those objectives, and how do you build the technology that will support it? Because all these 3 pieces need to be tied together if you truly want to get to a place where you can truly link your experience transformation to then key business goals of driving better more customer acquisition, improved NPS, higher retention, whatever you want to define as your business goals. Your ability to link that now to experience has become very critical, and it's very important, right? And when we look at experience design and UI UX transformation for our clients, we bring in all these three facets in our thought process of how we go about doing this, right? And how do we think this should be done in the right ideal scenario, for lack of a better term, right? And if you were to kind of further break this thought process down into how this whole journey comes through life, right? So this is how we kind of look at what a successful customer experience transformation would look like, starting from what the fundamental data and insights plays a role, right? Because customer insights is going to be the most important aspect that will drive how your change has to be. Because if you just go back a little bit, most of these digital platforms or digital products that have been put out by our clients or customers have been an inside out view of what our clients thought their customers wanted from these digital properties. Most of them have been that way, that I know, my sales team knows, my marketing team knows, or my head of department knows as to what kind of website I should put, what kind of information should be there, what kind of commerce platform I should put in there, right? But the customer insight had been missing in a lot of those conversations. And for some of the case studies that I will just quickly walk you through, that has been the biggest change that we have brought in all of our engagements. And any conversation that we have, which is centered around UI, UX transformation and experience transformation, the first and foremost focus for us is to say, engage and understand, have you really spoken to your customers about what you're trying to build? And do you know what they're expecting out of you? And in context of B2B, it becomes even more critical because within a customer, you're talking about different personas within a customer that is going to engage with you. In a consumer business, it's always pretty straight line saying that I'm engaging with you. I will look at the product. I will like the product. I'll buy the product and I'll use the product. Most cases, that is how it is, right? But when it comes to B2B, it's not one guy or one persona that is engaging or trying to understand your services or your solution. There are multiple personas within the same organization who are trying to engage with your digital properties, and that customer insights become very critical. What that customer insights then helps us do is truly build an experience mapping and experience strategy that will then help you deliver the business impact that you're talking about. So that is
easy for me to think about
sure.
Your value proposition in terms of how a customer experiences your brand. When I'm online and I order, when it's being shipped, where is it in delivery and transit, my customer care experience, etc. Typically, however, I don't think of it in terms of a medical device construct. And I'm wondering if the examples you're going to give for this medical device audience are medical device, or is this an area that your team is trying to get inroads in, and that's why we're talking today?
So to me, Joe, I think this whole notion of customer experience, when I think of medical device, and I'll give you a live example, I can't say their name, but they are a very big manufacturing device company based out of upstate New York, Rochester. I think all of you would figure out the name. The idea is when they were getting into what they wanted to move from a traditional model of buying a device outright towards a managed services of devices, which meant that these medical devices are huge, expensive. So instead of them, the hospitals and all, just buying their device outright, what if they charged in a pay-per-use kind of a model in terms of how much you are using that device for scanning, for dental scanning, for X-rays? Yes. That time, this became the most important conversation, because when your sales guy is going to go and sell a product and then they go buy it outright, it's a very simple notion of saying, you know what, I bought the product. Now, whenever I have a service call or preventive maintenance that is happening, I will give a call or my customer services call out. But now if you change the paradigm as to pay as you go model, it now brings in a different way of your ability to present that device status, how much you are using, what kind of preventive maintenance you need to do in a digital world. And that's where this whole experience design became all the more important, because you need to understand the users of the device may be totally different from the guys who are billing, who sees the invoice and who are going to pay you the money. So that's where this context is very important. So in my mind, I don't believe any industry is not aligned to what I'm trying to tell you. To me, every industry that today is trying to look at how they better engage their customers and consumers, be it B2B, manufacturing, medical devices, has to have an understanding that what is it their customers' expectation from them in this digital engagement world that they're trying to build, right? So that's the mindset, and that's how we go it. And I think one other thing that I would like to bring, at least my experience, and on the risk of being a little presumptuous here, but I'll take that risk. The idea that I have not worked completely with medical device, I think is a big benefit that I bring to the table for all of you, because then I can tell you that, you know what manufacturing and what retailers did or what the telecom is doing, which I still think is relevant for how manufacturing and medical devices can start looking at the world, because world is changing. And that was the conversation I had with this medical device manufacturing firm when they were talking about this pay-per-use model. Their idea was, you know what, we'll just put a simple user login and they can download their invoices monthly and pay that invoices. That's a very simple experience to build. But that's not the right thing to do when you talk about pay-per-use models in different industry. And that's where this whole mindset of, how do you look at customer becomes more relevant. So that was my thoughts.
Let me jump in also, Joe. There's another piece of the UI UX that we don't have examples of, but digitizing the content. There's a whole lot of content out there that med device companies have, and digitizing that content and making it either searchable for your users, for your field engineers, for customer care. And then also there's the aspect of supporting the customers, especially in this virtual world that COVID has pushed us into. There's an augmented reality piece of it, so that both people, and that's another user experience that we bring into play, is the augmented reality piece, is not only that we're digitizing content, we're then making it searchable. Then if augmented reality is needed to where a client calls into customer care, tech support, or a field engineer is not fully up to speed on that rendition of it, then augmented reality can play a role in bringing both parties up to speed and that content, that digitized content, searchable. Or if a customer care agent or a field engineer is talking to a client, that information is not only searchable, but trainable. So all of that UI UX comes into play across the whole customer experience. So it's a lot to talk about, and we left that piece out because, heck, that's a whole nother conversation when you're talking AI, digitized content, and AR.
I don't know if we addressed your question, Joe. Any additional thoughts where we move on?
Well, I'm eager to see your next slide and such. I'm
Sure.
hoping that a lot of what you relate can be
Understood. Yes, and I think
easily visualized in a medical device context.
Sure, and I think I will run through these couple of slides and then kind of go in the examples. I think those examples will also kind of give you how the value starts coming in, right? And I think then we can address any other questions. So I think then comes the whole product and service design, which is the core part of your actual products and what all supporting information you provide from a product. And this is a very important piece, again, in my mind. And I know medical devices tend to be, if I'm talking about large, complex ones, they're not in the self-install space right now. But as we go along, there's a notion of how can I make installation and initial configuration less touch-driven and can be done a lot by your user. Especially, I know for sure in the dental space where mostly the users of those dental devices are not large hospitals with a lot of things. It's just 2-3 doctors working in a specific clinic, and there is a lot of appetite for a lot of self-service that needs to be provided rather than a lot of touch as you go in for large-scale hospital-based kind of equipment, right? So I know, and the reason why I say this is because we have a conversation right now where one of our prospects who is into dental device manufacturing and dental X-ray and all, they're thinking about how do they change the initial process to a self-install, right? And if you think that mindset, product, service, and design, it's not about your core product, which you're actually selling, but around it, what all collaterals you have, either digital or what comes along in the kit in terms of setting and configuring that device also becomes very critical in terms of design thinking, right? So that is another area where the focus comes in. And then of course, the core implementation of technology, integrating all your systems together, your call center systems, your digital website, your integration with data analytics ecosystem. That's the core implementation part where you tie all those different technologies that will play a role in this whole experience world together. And the support and optimization is support and optimization, right? You continuously go and look at the feedback and move from there.
Thinking Rick Stockton, if you have a question, to raise your hand and I'll bring you on, because Rick is about design and design for manufacturing. And I'm wondering how these virtual pieces fit in with his very tangible work that he does. Please continue.
Sure. And Donovan, just if you could continue to review the Q&A, and if there's something that we need to address, let me know, because I will not, since I'm presenting, I will not switch there, right? Yep. So I think to me, I would not spend a lot of time in this slide, but this was just to kind of give you a process of how the data-driven UI UX process goes along. The user
We
interview.
We can pass through this. We don't need to, this is not a webinar. This is a conversation. So let's go to.
And this is just some of the other considerations that we need to put together when you look at any systems that you try to build, right? So again, I will not spend time. Let's keep going into the case study, which I think is very important. And I'll tell you exactly how the problem was solved, right? This currently is a customer that we are working with. They are a equipment manufacturer, but not a medical device or a medical equipment manufacturer, but they are one of the largest equipment manufacturers and solution providers. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is, as a case study here for this audience, is it was very interesting because they are not just selling devices, they're also selling solutions around those devices, which is it's more like, think of it as, you know what, and they're working out closely with everything to do with how you leverage water as part of your complete manufacturing process, or portability of water in industrial space or in large residential and commercial spaces. So they are into the complete water treatment, water management kind of a organization. They manufacturing products which are used, and they also build solutions that a large manufacturing company can say, hey, I have 4 factories. This is the kind of quality that I want for water for my manufacturing process. What kind of solution should I put together, including what equipments, what kind of capability? So they do both sides of business. And reason why this is relevant is I wanted to highlight the challenge of not looking at all their digital transformation with a lens of customer experience. So they went ahead and launched their digital customer portal, which was supposed to be an alternative for their customer base to be able to find solutions, do it yourself kind of a area, look at different product specifications, understand how their product is currently used, what better. So they built this whole nice customer portal, which was supposed to make a lot of the non-productive work which their sales team, account rep team, and customer service team used to do, and let customers drive it. The second big thing they launched almost 3 years back was an e-commerce channel where customers could come in and buy the products by themselves and order parts, order additional service contracts, everything that they needed online, rather than being again dependent on the traditional channel of sales rep. After the whole implementation, 1.5 years later, they were struggling with just 4% of the orders actually coming through the e-commerce portal. And from a customer portal standpoint, their time per customer that they were spending on the portal when they did the research was less than 1 hour. So essentially, nobody was really using their customer portal. Nobody was really using their e-commerce platform, which they launched with so much of thought process, saying that, you know what, this should drive a lot of non-productive work which my sales and account teams does and my customer service rep does. When they reached out to me and asked, the biggest thing they said, well, hey, you know what, we want to upgrade our platform because the platform is not giving the capability. That was the story. And as a technology company, I could have jumped onto that and said, yes, perfect. You're in version 2.x, let's go to version 4.x, and automatically, magically, everything that you're talking about will be solved. But that's not what we did. What we told them that if you're trying to tell me you have an issue with adoption, if you have an issue with customer experience, so have you really done any research around understanding what your customers are looking at and really looking at design from that perspective? And answer came very clear that no, they've built all this thinking that they know what they know about their customers, and they went ahead and just built what they built. So that's where we then took this whole data-driven transformation for the customer experience, where we went through the whole research of what their current customer platforms are, so their customer portal and e-commerce. We spoke and did a qualitative and quantitative research to gather insights from their end customers. And based on that, we came up with the actual design in terms of how their customer portal needs to look like, how their e-commerce portal needs to look like, and what are the capabilities that they're currently missing, which are the most critical aspect that their customers are asking for, which will drive adoption for them.
You're definitely talking an area that I am comfortable talking to now about. I had Teleflex as a client some years back, and they asked me, Joe, we built this thing. How can we get more people to use it? And I was like, okay, it's a very leading question. It's like, well, here's this mug and nobody seems to want to drink from it. Can you help me find people who want to drink from this mug? And I'm like, so my question for you in the example that you're citing, which is still vague, I don't know what the actual product was. Were you, through this type of work, able to materially drive adoption? Because if you could, I would be impressed.
Yes, and I have that stat. So we were, and I can go ahead and show you the impact first and then come back to your thing. So I don't have the latest numbers, but I will tell you when we did this exercise started out end of 2019, early 2020 with them, and we continue to upgrade and do it. The initial uptake that we saw on their customer portal after the very small changes, we did not even go through the platform upgrade early on. We did the platform upgrade now at the later part of 2020 and early 2021. We finished this discovery exercise, I think Jan and 2020, and we had what we called as quick wins for them, which were very simple changes to their whole website, aligned very, and I know this is an eye chart, but this is the emotional and user-based journey map that we created for them, which essentially said that these are the, if you see on the left-hand side, these are the different
Yeah,
personas.
this is much too small. Are you,
Yeah.
Donovan, can you send me the deck?
Yeah, I will send you the purpose, kind of explaining the purpose of this was, we were easily able to identify which personas engage with their platforms.
Mhm.
Each of the persona during the phase of their engagement, what steps they are going through, and what kind of steps are creating this emotional drops or challenges for them as they go through the journey. And the way we phased it out was we identified very few changes, and I just articulate few of the changes. One of the biggest changes that we told them was their search that they are doing today is not based on the customer who's logged in. They're doing just a generic search on the content, which means if Joe came in, Donovan came in, and both of you looked at searching water filters, both of you will get exactly the same result output, which is not correct, because you know Joe has a different kind of equipment and Donovan has a different kind of equipment, because you know their contract. So why are you showing them the same search results? Why don't you just show the search result relevant to what Joe has versus what Donovan has? That was a very, very powerful change on their search, because the biggest issue that we saw where the dropouts used to happen in the website when we did the research, people used to come and search, and then they used to be on search page and not even click on any of the links. And that's how the maximum dropouts were happening, because they're not able to find what they were looking for in the first page of what they're searching, and it's all very confusing. So that one small change itself, Joe, kind of impacted how much time the users were spending on their customer portal. That was one big change that we set up from a search standpoint. The second big change that I did we recommended, which was very simple from a technology standpoint, was when someone searched for a product like a filter and he got what he was looking for and understood the product, why do they have to go to e-commerce platform and again search before they can add this to their cart? Because now he searched, he understood the product, he should be able to directly go and do this. And given their platform was both on Salesforce, it was much easier for us to do it. So that was a simple example of second change that we recommended, which was, it's nothing major in design change or maybe just a user experience change. So those two itself drove a high impact of what they're trying to do, right? And then as we went along, yeah, go ahead. I see.
No, it's clear as we talk more and the examples that you're giving and the concepts that we're discussing, everything we've been touching is around how you would be satisfied about the product itself, how it was shipped, how you interacted with invoicing, how you looked up something, whatever. Have you guys done, or is this a field from what you guys do? Are there any user experience exercises that you guys typically do that have to do with the product itself? For example, the interface on the panel of the design of the product.
Yeah.
And it's fine if the answer is no. I'm wondering if you do both sides.
So product testing, we innovate, we don't do it ourselves. We do it via our partner. So we have a couple of design partners. So actual physical product testing that happens with the customer research focus group, we don't specialize in that.
So I can think of your company as things that make my experience using your product better, but not having to do with the product.
Not the physical design of the product. We don't. So if a customer, and we have gone into that space with our partner, and it's not in medical devices.
That's just fine. So Donovan, I would say the next time you start an event like this and someone says, so tell us what you do, make that distinction early. The product itself is not what we work on. It's how everyone interacts with it, whether it's shipping this, and this, all of those touch points, how a customer interacts with it. Those are our specialties. And I think that would be very clarifying because it took me a half hour to get there.
Yeah, physical product is not our expertise. Design, we don't specialize there.
Okay.
So I think this is what the story was, right? So now as part of this whole journey, we have gone ahead and now there were advanced features that their customer wanted, which is now part of the upgrade that's happening. But the idea is, as part of this whole looking at their customer and trying to do getting data and insights around their customer needs, we were able to kind of truly change the way their customers are going to engage with their platform, which was very exciting. And I think it's a very good impact that we have created so far. Similar, the other one that I want to touch upon is a self-install thing. And Donovan and I were debating this, that should we bring self-install to medical devices? But to me, I have started seeing the need of this coming in every organization. It's not, I have my large hydraulic equipment manufacturer telling me they want to get into a self-install mode. So everybody is thinking about self-install. So I thought, why not bring a self-install mindset here, right?
And Rakesh, if I can add, so a lot of clients, that prospects that I'm calling on right now are in the HME, TME space.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is all around, once it's in your home, something goes wrong with it, all of that stuff. Yeah. Or even just getting it in a box and installing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's a very interesting story, right? So I think where we got engaged was not designing their self-install initially. So they went ahead, did their self-install. It was again running. We got involved when their director of customer research actually reached out to us saying that, you know what, our targets of self-install are not where we want it. And our NPS around self-install is much lower than where we want it to be. So those were the two feedback that we got when they were trying to discuss with us, right? What is happening? And again, a complete design and customer research thought process. The biggest thing that the reason why they wanted to drive, and this is a very specific example around telecom, but I think it's relevant to everyone who has a technician going in. The biggest cost around self-install is the cost of a technician going in and having to do that on your behalf rather than a customer or a consumer being able to do it by themselves. So that's the biggest driver that they had launched this whole self-install process, right? Fundamentally, what they missed out was the fact that they took a very same brush and painted all their customers when it came to self-install, which was to say that, you know what, I'll put a nice product kit in place. The kit will have all the colored wires, instruction sheet. Everybody can look at the colored wire, instruction sheet, and if they want, they can call the customer service and they should be able to walk them very carefully. A couple of things that they missed out on this whole progress, which was very significant to identify, is one, a lot of people have challenges in terms of distinguishing colors itself. So if you have blue, green, yellow lines, it's not very easy for everybody to assume they all can understand blue, green, yellow. And the second issue that they had was they did not look at how, while yes, your wires are blue, green, yellow, the routers that you're using are from two different providers. I think at that time, 3 different providers, and not all of them have blue, green, yellow. So they have some blacks, one has a gray. So what will you do when those kind of things start coming in an actual product testing? And Joe, to go back to your point, while product design was not our expertise, we brought in our partner who specializes in product design to actually not change the product, but change the kit that goes along with the product for self-install. So that was a variation that we did, at least for this engagement, because recommendations were required in that realm as well, right? So very similar exercise, we went ahead, and this was a huge exercise because it was more broader. We did qualitative survey for almost 300 plus people. We quantitative survey, we did qualitative interviews for around 50 users, and all subset of users, some who had given very bad feedback, some who had very high feedback. And based on all the feedback that we came on, again, this looks very detailed because it is very detailed. We identified the complete customer personas that are interacting in part of the self-install process and what kind of experience they are going through in each step of the self-install. So these columns that you see are actually each step of self-install and what capabilities they are missing today at each step, which is breaking their self-install journey. And based on that, we were able to come up with a complete redesign of their self-install microsite, their complete redesign of their call center scripts when it comes to, self-install, complete redesign of their, not the product, the self-install kit that goes, including the basic instruction cards as to how these cards need to be written to kind of drive step-by-step installation and how it should be kind of marked and how it should be called out. So all of that was part of this whole research and this redesign for a self-install process to drive the higher adoption and a higher NPS, right? And an amazing successful story to an extent that currently we are talking to 2 more customers in the same realm to kind of look at it. Because again, we intrinsically know what all we need to provide. Yes, there needs to be a mobile app. Yes, there needs to be a website. Yes, there needs to be a customer service. Yes, there needs to be a kit and instruction. But how all of them need to play and how, for example, if you are on step 4 of self-install on the instruction card, when you go to a self-install website, how quickly can you navigate to step 4 without having to go through step 1, step 2, step 3, and then come to step 4, which is very irritating for me because, hey, you know what, I'm on step 4. I just want to navigate to step 4 and know where am I stuck. Those are very simple things which becomes very challenging because you tend to put everything in a very sequential mindset when you're putting all these things together. So those are the value proposition. If you look at how truly looking at data and insights to drive experience has been our key forte, right? Are our designs most cool looking? I would like to believe yes, but there are hundreds of agencies that can build similar or even better looking designs of websites and products. That's not where we go in and say that, hey, you know what, we are the best. But the idea is, how can I make sure your experience and your user design is aligned to a business objective that you're trying to drive, and the underlying technology that you will put in place to deliver that can actually do what you are promising to do to your customers. I think that is the value proposition of Innovate, right? Again, it's not to say they look more pretty or that looks more pretty. No, I think that's not where we differentiate. It just kind of tying the left-hand side to the right-hand side and making sure the technology that you use will deliver that capability, right? That's where we come into play. So that was another example. Again, from a, yes, little bit, I would say, away from your medical devices and kind of mindset, but I think everybody is thinking about it. And if you are thinking about now, this may be the best time for you to now take a customer research driven approach to self-install rather than trying to think, you know what, I'll give them this kind of instruction and that kind of a microsite to do it, right? So that's what at least I had from a slide deck standpoint. I will pause for any questions, comments, any feedback that is there. Please go ahead.
I'm going to bring Rick on because he had a couple of comments.
Sure.
John Richard, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good.
And this is coffee because I'm blowing on it. So it's not vodka, it's not Jack Daniels, it's not beer, and it's not wine.
You wrote a few comments for us.
I did. It was, most of them got answered subsequently, but I was interested. One of the most important things is deciding what to improve. Now, Joe, you're really aware of the whole marketing aspect of that. You know, how can I get the customer to react and respond and assimilate it? But this also seems to, Rakesh, you also seem to have something going on in that you're looking for what kinds of changes are going to make a difference in the customer user experience. And since you're really working with that interface and not so much product design, I'm not sure if this is applicable. The closest I've ever gotten to that is we had a great thing for lower leg prosthetics, and it put a slight vacuum and held that prosthetic on really well, but they had a terrible time. Their user interface was a mess, and so we just developed something to make it look pretty. But I think what you're talking about is over on the cyber end, is making sure that and the cyber end and public end and web interface end, to make sure that somebody can access, relate, and also understand the benefit of what you're doing. So really, I'm, as far as I can tell, that's the quickest summary that I've gotten so far. Am I on target?
Yes, you are. And I think where we are kind of coming in, Rick, I think my point of view is very simplistic. I try to keep things simple, is the fact that your product design and your product experience are both very critical for your product's adoption and success, right? So your core product design, we are not the specialists on core product design, right? How your device should look like, how it's interfaced, that's all. I think what we come in and play is, at the end of the day, how do we enable your overall product experience? Because that's when the digital channels become very, very relevant. And today, any product that you're talking about, no matter which space you are in, medical space or consumer space or manufacturing space, the digital realm is a very, very critical part of your product experience ecosystem. And if it's not, chances are your product is going to have a challenge anyways for adoption, right? So we are here to kind of make sure that the digital realm that you build around your physical product is actually aligned in a way that your end customer experience is what you're trying to drive, that will at the end help you have a higher customer acquisition, better retention, higher customer value, whatever you want to call it as a business metrics. Because if your product is the best product out there, the notion that it itself will sell, I think we all know that notion is gone. And I don't want to quote researchers, but the biggest loyalty today of customer is to experience than to product itself. And yes, in B2C market, it's 99% accurate. In medical devices today, it may be 50% accurate because market is very big. It's not very easy for companies to just enter medical devices. All that will be there. But I can tell you one example of a customer that thought that way, and today you don't know them, is Kodak. Kodak used to be in a realm where, and I will quote this because I was in the meeting with their leadership.
And finish that, and right after that, I've got a question for you.
Yeah, so their biggest reason why they did not go down this whole path of digital was the fact that they felt their product had such a big market hindrance for anybody to enter that nobody can enter their space. And they decided that, you know what, if nobody can, it's not easy to set up a filmmaking business so easily. So they said, no, nobody can enter, this film quality will never improve. We will stay where we are, from a $36 billion organization to now maybe a $2.5 billion organization. And they're just, this is, so to me, the biggest thing that we are trying to, I think when we talk to a lot of our customers, is bring that mindset that digital realm will become more and more relevant to every product that you are in. And we play in the digital realm, not like the physical product realm. That's why, that's the kind of way I see it.
Okay, so here's my question for you. Do you ever get involved in this area of product development? One thing that I end up doing a lot is design rescue and also product improvement, cost reduction. Had a customer who was bringing, for quality reasons, they were bringing a medical device back from China into the United States so they could better control what was going on with the device. And they had several different things about it which were, which could be improved. So the decision is, which things do we improve first? And would you ever be in the position of advising a company on, okay, we're looking at this, we're looking at your product, we're looking at what they're doing with it. Here is a prioritized list of the improvements that will do two things. Number one, they're improvements that the customer can be made to relate to. And two, they are communicatable in the context of the user interface. Do you ever get into that kind of advising so that, they're going, yeah, we're doing some redesign, we're updating components. Can you give us your recommendations on a priority list?
So it's a yes and a no answer. And I'll tell you why it's a yes and a no answer. So it's yes when you look at any product or any device from the IoT angle and data angle, and how do you want to use that data from a use case angle of what you're trying to do. And let me kind of give you a detail of where we come in. So this is they're not a manufacturing device company. Sorry, my experience is not as rich as all of you in medical devices. My examples are more. So this is more of a IoT large device that they're building out, and they're going to replace. So if you go to a Walgreens, if you go to any of the store, you open those coolers, right? Where you get your Gatorade, you get your Pepsis and Cokes, which are in the freezer. This is a company that is saying, I want to change that whole screen to be a more IoT driven, nice interactive screen rather than being a simple pane. So that's their vision. So they're building that actual door, which is now a IoT device rather than just a plain vanilla door. It's expensive. But now they were talking about what is the vision, and we have been engaged with them very early on. Their vision was how this can become a place for ad, how this can become a place for, at the store to kind of put in what is more going on, promotions right then and there, those kind of simplistic use cases. We started pushing them to start thinking, why, if you are now in a store, if a user is in, why don't you now go to more personalized space of trying to know what users have done in the past, what kind of data now you can use from personalized experience. So imagine the beauty of me standing in front of Walgreens and the whole ad changing to a product that I have bought just 1 week back, which I need to buy now, rather than showing me price of other product. And that's triggered the fact that how they have to capture more data and integrate with the POS stores and mobile apps of the stores and what they can bring in together. So our advice is always going to be on the data analytics, data integration. Do we have advice on the size of the screen, how it should look like, the actual physical appearance of the product and physical nature of product integration? Answer is no. We are not an expert there. But where we come in with our advice is mostly around what are you trying to do with that device and what kind of data you want to capture, what are you thinking of engagement? And we can then bring in that data analytics and integration recommendations and talk about that angle rather than be very knowledgeable about your actual product design. So that's why it was yes and a no answer to, yes, we have helped people change their product design, but centered around very data analytics centric rather than actual physicality of the product.
Okay, that sounds good. That answered that question. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you, Rick. Rakesh, I'd like to close with a question about the upcoming event at which you're speaking. It is about Adobe and Magneto. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. So this is an event that this is the flagship event of Adobe. So this used to happen in Vegas, which I'm upset I'm going to do it from my house, leaving that aside. So this is a flagship event where Adobe is a leading product when it comes to customer experience and the whole experience market, right? They have a stack of product that helps you build your websites, your e-commerce platform, your marketing automation, the whole suite of products, right? We have been working very closely with this company called American Chemical Society. They're one of the largest scientific societies. And again, their problem was, hey, you know what? For the last 10 years, my memberships are going in the wrong direction. And it is going to a place where they were very worried that if there are no more members, they are no more relevant. So they came to us saying that my membership is going down. How can you help us solve that? We went to the whole exercise of understanding what the challenges are, what the business objective, and came up with the solution was today they don't have an integrated conversion platform. So they are selling memberships, they're selling webinars, they're selling journals, they're selling leadership courses, but every business is selling a product separately. What is then making it happen is Rakesh may be buying 10 different things from American Chemical Society, but they have no idea what is going on and what Rakesh is buying because nobody knows what Rakesh is integrating. I just know Rakesh bought this webinar. I just know Rakesh bought this course. So the way we looked at the whole journey was to saying that how do we bring all the conversion through various channels onto a single platform so that now ACS has a view on exactly how Rakesh is interacting with ACS, what is he interested in, what is he buying, so that now you can build a more engaging experience with Rakesh as you go along. So that's where we chose the platform of Adobe called Magento. Magento is one of the leading e-commerce platforms, right? So everybody here also today,
it's also very expensive.
They've tiered it down now. So they are becoming, every product is getting cheaper. So yes, it is getting cheaper and cheaper. So we chose Magento as a platform for the conversion and we build the whole journey for them one step at a time. And we continue to build it because of a huge transformation. We've been engaged with them for now almost 1.5 years, and we will continue to engage with them for we have plans for at least 1.5 years more till we completely transform the experience that they're going to deliver to their customers.
I know very exceedingly few companies that have adopted Magento and seen material improvement because, in my experience, Magento is very much about the back end for the company to use. And it's only as good as the people who use it and how strategically they're thinking. And so now they have their much prettier dashboards that few people actually know how to use, and fewer still know how to interpret meaningfully in a strategic way that improves a customer experience. Are you finding that this particular client with your guidance is the exception to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they have, just to give you some numbers, one number, right? Not some numbers, one numbers. When we launched the first product, their business gave a stretch goal of having 3,000 new members in 6 months with the new product, 3,000 6 months, and they will be happy. In 6 weeks, we had 13,000 new members, and they had to shut down this offer saying that, hey, you know what's too successful, we can't manage, because they have to go through the governance board.
And where's this new product?
This was the whole ACS community membership product that they sold via Magento.
And how they marketed, did they market it to existing?
No marketing.
Upgrade?
We just kind of integrated it as part of their whole user flow of webinar. So webinar is a product they sell. So they sell webinars. And whenever you want to go and buy a webinar, you register on some other platform. We said, okay, when someone comes to buy a webinar, let's make this whole integration seamless on Magento. Just let's offer them this community membership as they buy the webinar. They don't have to do any more clicks. They just select.
So you bundled.
Yes. And the bundling was a big thing because in their current ecosystem, since webinar is hosted by platform A, membership is hosted by platform B, product C is hosted by platform C, they can't bundle. Everybody has to go individually buy products, and that's where they're missing. So our idea is eventually every conversion that ACS will do, be it paid conversion, free membership, registration, everything will go through this e-commerce platform powered by Magento. Primarily because now I can now start offering them multiple things based on what they're doing.
Okay, that makes sense. I get that.
Yeah, that's how. And I think to answer your first part, right? So Magento, the history of Magento has been, it was an open source platform first. Adobe bought this platform three years back, I think. It was an open source e-commerce platform. After Adobe has bought this, today Magento e-commerce and Salesforce Commerce are the two leading products when it comes to e-commerce platforms. So any of us who are looking at today building an e-commerce platform, Magento and Salesforce are the leading products. You have smaller products like Shopify, BigCommerce and all that are not very aligned to a B2B world. If you are in a B2B world, you have to have a lot of integrations. You need to make your ecosystem much more aligned. That's where Magento and Salesforce are the leading products. If you're a small brand selling a couple of products, you can do a lot of other things. But that's where I think Magento is really going up. And with Adobe's view on this integrated ecosystem of customer experience, I think that's where the value of Magento is really shining through now. So
I understand. And I'm glad you took us through that. While we were having today's webinar, I found you on LinkedIn. I sent you an invitation. I'd like to continue talking with you after. Donovan, thanks for including your friend here.
Thanks for having us. This is really, really appreciated, and really love being a part of this. So thank you.
Appreciate you saying that. Everybody, next week we're going to have a doubleheader with Michelle and Peter. They're going to talk to us about how MDR will completely destroy your old translations. And the week after that, we have David Alpert, the founder of AliveCore. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you both very much, and I'll see you all next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.